BKC. I do hope you're recording this. Hello and welcome, guys, to a GSC game from SPL, Mr. 378 versus McMegan. Both are having good seasons so far. Mr. 378 was the only undefeated GSC player at mid-season, and McMegan is McMegan. I'm not sure about their current records. I've not really been keeping as close of a track to SPL as I was a few weeks ago. But we see Raikou v Raikou in the lead matchup, and seemingly there is no auth on to disable the chat. Unfortunate. Raikou is an interesting choice from both players. Now, normally in GSC, every team will have an electric. That's just guaranteed. It'll have an electric legendary. It'll either have Raikou or it will have Zapdos. And which one it has will normally say a fair amount about the team in question. Zapdos is used on more offensive builds, and it's one that I personally favour more than Raikou, whereas Raikou is used as the ultimate Zapdos counter. And I mean that's detracting a little bit from Raikou. Like, it is very good on its own right, but it's the more defensive of the two. And well, stuff like Zapdos's Thunder will be doing more to neutral targets, such as the Fortress. And it's normally Fortress. Raikou is normally seen on more defensive teams than Zapdos is, although Zapdos obviously can be used on defensive teams. Raikou is the more go-to one because it deals with things like Vaporeon better. It deals with things like not Snorlax better. What am I saying? Things like Dragonite it deals with better because yeah. Snorlax comes in. Snorlax mirror match. Okay. So we see a normal curse from McMegan. What's double edge? Okay. So we really know basically nothing about Mr. 378's Snorlax right now. A bit of information. Mr. 378 is a good friend of mine, one that I would consider quite close, and he actually tutored me in GSC for a while. And we see the Skarmory. BKC again. I keep on accidentally calling Mr. 378 BKC. He's using basically a stall team. You could already tell that just from the look of it. Stuff like Skarmory and Raikou, yeah, definitely a stall team. So he goes for the Lovely Kiss with the Lax on the Skarmory, as it does a net nothing, as McMegan goes out into the Cloyster and gets Whirlwinded for his troubles, as they might actually be using the exact same team as each other, which would make this interesting. Team archetypes in GSC, they're pretty well set and known. Like, no one will have their own completely original team. There's going to be someone that's had either that team or a specific idea that's very similar before. So, knowing that, well, they're both basically using stall, and stall is a good way to go in GSC. Obviously, it's GSC. It's got a reputation for stall for a reason. But this will come down to who plays better with it, which is the good thing about GSC, in my opinion. Like, almost all instances in games, like if there's hacks, you can figure out a way back from it, unless it's like late game. If there's early game hacks, it does relatively less to you in comparison to the newer gens. Sorry, I'm just gonna pause for a Discord message. Yeah, we miss a lot of turns, shit. Okay, so we were in the Raikou v Snorlax, and he immediately doubled out with Raikou into Skarmory as Snorlax went for the curse, and to avoid the sleep he went out into Suicune. I might have this team. Okay, wait, no, they wouldn't be using the same team. It's just got three of the same mons. I've just realised it because Cloyster and Fortress, they overlap quite heavily as spikers who can potentially spin on stall teams. Of course, Cloyster is the more offensive option, having actual offensive prowess. Skarmory just goes for the curse as McMegan gets a crit, but Skarmory can just decide to try and Whirlwind here. Get a bit of extra leftovers as he actually reveals the rest on the Skarmory. I don't know if I would have done that there. The switch out was pretty obvious, and I feel like trying to get an extra turn of leftovers was better. But of course he can just, you know, do it this way, make sure that Skarmory's at a good amount of health next time it comes in. Sorry, I've got a lump in my throat. I believe the last is Umbreon, as it is revealed to be Umbreon. Umbreon is a bit weird in GSC. Like, it's not something I use very often. It doesn't fit me personally, but it is a good mon. Like, it gets Charm, it completely shuts down a lot of physical attackers, and it can get mean. It can use rather mean look to try and deal with things. Also gets stuff like Charm and Pursuit. It's tailor-made to beat Starmie's. But of course, Starmie is not very likely on McMegan's end because he does have the Cloyster, which he's already revealed, and Double Water in a tier where Zapdos and Raikou are so good and so common. Not really a thing. Yeah. I mean, maybe sometimes you'd see a Double Water in the case of like Suicune, but you wouldn't see it not on this team, as he does just go for a Toxic on the switch into the Skarmory, and that's actually a good play on McMegan's end, because when you see a Umbreon, you've always got to also bear in mind the potential for something like Trap Passing, and the Skarmory covered not only the Toxic, but it also covers the potential trapping move, because it can, of course, just Whirlwind, as 378 is just going to Charm as the gets sent out into the Snorlax. This is going to be a long game, I already apologize. But yeah, I enjoy GSD games. There's a lot more strategy, as it reveals itself to be Fire Blast Snorlax. So that is, he goes out into Umbreon though. So the Umbreon can't really effectively threaten the Skarmory. So that if he went out into Raikou there, that would have been almost perfect for him, because his McMegan's Snorlax has been a little bit weakened to the point where it could actually be 3-hit KO'd by Thunder. And of course there's always stuff like Para chances and things. Yeah. I need a drink. As he goes out into his Raikou, he's just wanting to rest off, get rid of his Para. Snorlax does come in, as we actually see McMegan make an aggressive play there and go straight for a Thunder. I would have thought that he would prefer to try and rest up so that he could better deal with things like the Suicune, the Skarmory, and the opposing Raikou, as we see a T-Tar. Now, T-Tars are a bitch to try and switch into for a team like Mr. 378's, because although he's got a Suicune, Suicune is basically the only thing that can effectively deal with the T-Tar on his team, and the Suicune also has to take rocks, it has to take spikes as it switches in, and of course there is the Raikou, which does exist and can just beat the Suicune, as of course can the Snorlax. If you're using Suicune, you are using Raw Suicune, so he can just Raw as he comes in so as to rack up extra spikes damage. But T-Tar is a definite potential late game threat against the team that Mr. 378 is using, and it means that he'll effectively have to preserve his Suicune very well, as he goes out into Snorlax in anticipation of the Suicune switch, which is a very, very nice play on McMegan's end. As what would the last be on that team? He's got a Skarmory. Like, this is not a stall team on McMegan's end, it's just bulky. It's not really easy to apply labels like bulky offense and stall to GSC, but it's more offense with a bit of extra padding than normal, to be kind of facetious. As he goes with the Curse with the Snorlax, I mean, potentially he's going to go for a crit here, but no, he's just going to go for a double edge. He can just decide to Curse up when the Skarmory wakes up, and then he can go for another rest. Mr. 378 can, that is. As he actually chooses to Whirlwind. Ooh, I don't know if I agree with that play. I would have tried to... I mean, he couldn't really rest there, because then there's potential for Snorlax to Curse on up and then do more damage, and then it's just... not very nice situation to try and be in and try and win that 1v1. Especially because if at any point you do try and curse, he can go out into something like the Raikou, or indeed this Cloyster, which does scare out the Skarmory. Then you're in a bit of a tough situation. Here he can just fire off a Surf freely if he has it. Surf or Ice Beam, honestly, but either are fine. Umbreon won't take much from it. Neither would the Raikou, but it also wants to try and preserve its health for the opposing Raikou, because he knows that that's going to be a little bit difficult to try and explain. Like, Raikou versus Raikou is a match where there's not really a winner. As he goes hard into Snorlax, Snorlax is not an Umbreon counter because, of course, Umbreon does pack the Charm. The only set that really beats Umbreon if you're using a Snorlax is Belly Drum, but we've already seen Curse, and Curse Belly Drum is not exactly a common set when you're using it alongside Lovely Kiss. As he goes out into Raikou here, how long can McMegan go without resting here, though? I really would be starting to want to rest with my Raikou in his position. Because, yeah, Raikou can just come in, and he does indeed rest this turn. That makes complete sense. Raikou v Raikou is... Electric is a difficult move to stop in GSC, and you don't want things like your Snorlax paralyzed, especially when you're taking spikes damage and you're already weakened. As a result, Raikou will often be the initial switch in to an opposing Raikou, just so that it takes the Thunder easily. If it gets paralyzed, it can rest up easily. There's nothing that a Raikou can really do to itself, and while neither player really wins that 1v1, neither player will really lose that 1v1 either, and it's just... It's a little bit of a PB stall, as he goes into Snorlax in anticipation of the not Sleep Talk Thunder, which is, you know, that's fair, like, that's less than a 25% chance to actually hit a Thunder through Sleep Talk, so that's a reasonable guess, I suppose. As here, he can just decide to rest up. I don't know, I think I might have tried to curse up first, but resting is fine here because he doesn't want to stay in after he cursed, so yeah, I take it back, resting was fine there. Skarmory is really, really badly weakened here, so a crit double edge would actually kill it, so I feel like McMegan's play is 100% to double edge here. He could alternatively try and Lovely Kiss, catch the Skarmory on the switch in, which is a possibility, and then, but then, after leftovers, +1 curse is a roll to Suet KO, I believe, and +1 curse, +1 double edge from having cursed up is a roll to Suet KO, and it's not necessarily in Megan's favor, especially when you're considering things like sleep turns and sleep mechanics, meaning that you Mr. 378 has a decent chance of waking up before you actually kill it off. Yeah. And of course, there is just the Umbreon, which needs to be considered, which we've seen its charm. It can beat the Snorlax 1v1. What's the final move on the Slax? If it's Fire Blast, that's excellently played by Megan, but I feel like he would have gone for it before. And he does, of course, have the T-Tar, which can be used to lure in things like the Skarmory. Potentially, with Fire Blast. T-Tar just has so many things it can run. What do I think his last one is? I'll tell you what I would like it to be. I would like it to be a Marowak, because his matchup versus Stoll is not the best, and if it's Marowak, he does have an excellent way of trying to beat non-Suicune Stalls. What else would it be? I mean, Executor is just pretty normal and pretty easy to use in that slot. If he's got Executor, I've got a team that's almost exactly like this, but with Zapdos over Raikou. But, I mean, that's not really an issue. As we see that it is Lovely Kiss, 2 attacks, Rest, Snorlax. That's good information to have. That's an interesting set, honestly. I don't personally like it, but I also don't personally like any Snorlax set in GSC that isn't using some sort of... I'm fine with 4 attacks Snorlax, I'm fine with a lot of Snorlax, but I don't see the point of Lovely Kiss unless you have a specific way of trying to take advantage of a Lovely Kiss. On stall teams, my favorite Snorlax set is just normal Curslax, because I feel like that gives me a guaranteed win condition at any game rather than hoping my opponent doesn't know how to execute his offense effectively. And banking on someone like McMegan to not be able to break you down, that's a risky strategy in all honesty, and I don't know how solid I would genuinely consider that, as Umbreon comes in on the Exoskeleton and takes the Ice Beam like a champion. Yeah, Umbreon's Spadef is just monstrous. As he gets the Pursuit off, does a decent chunk of damage to that, honestly, as the Raikou comes out, and here, well, he can of course just always go out into his Raikou. Yeah, as he does choose to just do that. The winner of Raikou v Raikou is whoever paralyzes first, really. As, yeah, that just means that you've got a decent chance of breaking down the Raikou later on if it's paralyzed. But, of course, when you're dealing with a resting Raikou and you're doing net 14% to it per turn, you're not really in a happy situation. As he goes out into Snorlax, Sleep Talk into Thunder. It doesn't have Sleep Talk, I forgot. Yeah, okay then. So here, sorry if that annoyed people. I've got a desk and it's breaking. Here he can go Skarmory just for the free leftovers recovery. The Snorlax I think is guaranteed to stay asleep for this turn. I think it only burn one turn of sleep, in other words. And it's... yeah. It's a bit of a interesting situation for Mr. 378, and I'll explain why I was silent for a minute there. I'm trying to figure out what exactly his way is to win. That's one thing I particularly hate in games, is having no set path to victory. And that sounds really fucking bad, I know, but what I basically mean is I don't like teams, kind of like the one that Mr. 378 is honestly using, where your way of winning is wearing down your opponent's Pokemon over time, because it's asking to be PP stalled in a tier like GSC. If you've got no way of breaking through things like Skarm Raikou, then you're just gonna end up not being happy at the end of the day. And like Megan here has got Snorlax, which can break through a team, and goes out into Raikou trying to catch the Skarmory double. I say trying, succeeding in catching the Skarmory double, and doubles back into Snorlax to try and deal with the Raikou. So I guess it's not actually a Marowak there then, because if it was, that would have definitely been your switch in. Skarmory is weakened. Raikou is asleep and can't and doesn't have sleep talk. Like Marowak was almost ideal there then, and you could just fire off an EQ on the predicted Suicune. Alternatively, he's trying to wear down the Suicune before going out into the Marowak, but more likely than not, he's just not got Marowak. Which does, of course, raise the question, what is that extra slot? Because Pursuit does a net 0 to the Skarmory. Suicune comes out easily on T-Tail every single time. If you have Eggy, you would have gone into it here. Like, yeah, okay, there's an Ice Beam, so maybe you wouldn't have, but I would have probably gone into Eggy there. In anticipation of just a normal Surf doing most to the Raikou, which you've already revealed. As he goes out into the Snorlax on the Raikou, trying to wear the Raikou down by Spike's damage, but sooner or later Mr. 378 is going to catch on to his switch pattern, and I mean, every time that Megan is making predictions like that, he's kind of risking a fair amount, and yeah, I don't know. We see Curse Skarm versus Curse Lax, as Curse Lax is doing about 5 to the Skarm. Skarm can honestly just drill peck here, trying to catch something on the switch, including the T-Tar, as it takes next to nothing. Pursuit we saw did 17 last time, as it does 18 this time, and Suicune comes out. That's a worry, in all honesty, the fact that Skarmory is that low. As he does Surf, gets 25% off on the Raikou. I'm just gonna send a message. I need to pause more often. Every fucking turn is happening right now. Okay, so what we saw was the Pursuit turn. Suicune came out, Raikou came out on Suicune. Suicune did 25%. Both of them, 78 switched into his own Raikou, taking the Thunder easily. And then McMegan rested with his Raikou. Went for a Sleep Talk as Raikou went for Roar, and we're now here, where T-Tar is in versus the Raikou. This is actually a bit threatening for McMegan, because without going for EQ, you can't kill the Raikou from here. And if 378 lands 2 Thunders, he would actually kill off McMegan's T-Tar here. As McMegan just decides to switch into his Raikou, which is, that's... I'm not knocking that play, that's like a fine play. It's not risking anything, and it's just generally good. As 378 is getting the bad end of almost all of these doubles in a row. McMegan has figured out his switching pattern, and here is where the Skarmory being that low comes at a real disadvantage, because the Snorlax can... No, he can't just Lovely Kiss, because he Lovely Kissed the Snorlax earlier, so I'd forgotten about that. I was about to say that he could Lovely Kiss on the switch into the Skarmory and then just beat it, but instead he can't, so worth mentioning. As he makes the switch into Umbreon, that's decent. In anticipation of the T-Tar, making sure that the Skarmory doesn't get worn down more, and also covers Curse from McMegan's end, because it can, of course, just prevent the boost from accruing. As Toxic is unaffected by the sleeping Raikou. And yeah, this is an evenly matched game thus far. Like, McMegan has worn down Mr. 378's team a lot, and if this is definitely sleep talking here, like, there's no reason. Okay, you know what, sometimes I'm just wrong, but I would have definitely gone for a sleep talk there. I would think that I mean, I guess the 6% is useful, but I think that it would have been better if you had capitalized on that extra 6%, as Umbreon goes to the Moonlight. And yeah, Roro is worn down Mr. 378's team, but a lot of it is somewhat artificial. Like the Raikou, anytime McMegan gets this switch wrong, or he goes for Sleep Talk here and misses a Thunder or something, all the damage he's accrued on Raikou just gets completely undone. And the damage on Skarmory, while nice, it can also be undone via leftovers. Suicune isn't nearly worn down enough for T-Tar, and T-Tar is more worn down because he has no way of getting rid of his own spikes. So yeah, but we still don't know what the last is from McMegan, and it could be any number of things. Like my initial thought was something like a Machamp, because I'm not fond of the answers to either Fire Blast Lax or Drum Lax on that team, but I mean, they exist. The Skarmory can deal with Drum Lax, and Fire Blast Lax can be handled by T-Tar somewhat, as long as it's not Fire Blast EQ, which is a set that Mr. 378 has run in the past, so not a guarantee that it's not, in all honesty. As he goes for the Thunder on the Umbreon, and Raikou is still weakened, so that's good for him. He can just go for Thunder again, try and fish off a Para, but it did not work. And here, do you go for... I think I go for rest if I'm Megan here. I don't want Toxic accruing extra on me. And he actually chooses to go hard into Snorlax on the Raikou double. Jesus. I'm sorry, I said the wrong name. McMegan. Oh, what a terrible joke. My god. Oh, dear me. I'm actually cringing so hard in real life. I'm sorry, guys. That was just not a good joke. So he's gotten the extra 6% on the Raikou. 378 can... I need some shorthand for that. Numbers? Yeah, sure, why not? Numbers is quicker to say. Skarmory comes in and it can take the double edge easily and just rest off the damage. But, saying that, this is risky for Mr. 378 because at this point, everything will get 2-hit KO'd by the Raikou's Thunder. And so, not sleeping it when I said I would was a very good play on McMegan's end because it means that he's got the threat of the Thunder right here. He can just switch into the Raikou. If the Skarmory goes for a rest, it's basically a kill unless Mr. 378 dodges. He would choose to sack off the Fortress almost certainly, as he actually chooses to go into Skarmory. What did I just say? He actually chooses to go into Cloyster, which I think is interesting because the Suicune can deal with the Cloyster as well as the Raikou, unless it's Hidden Power Electric Ice Beam, which, I mean, that could be a set. Umbreon also tanks quite easily. He is Hidden Power Electric and was predicting the Suicune switch, but Mr. 378 realized that that was a possibility and went into Umbreon very, very intelligently. As Ice Beam wouldn't have took KO. Jesus. Oh dear. That freeze is massive. Let's have a look at the lobby reaction. Yep. That is huge. This Umbreon was a massive, massive pain for McMegan to try and deal with. Ideally, he would have tried to stall it out of Moonlight PP. He's only got like 8 in total, so it is entirely plausible to do it that way. But instead, he just gets the free kill on the Umbreon because of the way that freeze works. Isn't it lovely? Yeah, so the good news for 378 is that he can rest up with his Raikou after this, meaning that the spikes damage he's accrued would be undone. But yeah, that freeze is just huge and very, very unfortunate. As he ooh, that's getting greedy. I don't agree with that. Not at all. He goes into Skarm as he double edges. No, I don't agree with that play. I would have almost certainly Ice Beam there. I mean, he wants to make sure that the Raikou doesn't get the rest off. And I can, of course, understand that. But I still don't think it's really... You have done it once, you can do it again. Like, the mons that you've used to wear down the Raikou are all healthy. And here, he's just going to accomplish almost the exact same thing. He just sacks off the Umbreon. As what? I guess he's saving it for sack fodder for something that is easier to... that is harder to switch into. But yeah, Thunder's doing a chunk. McMegan has to be careful he doesn't lose his Raikou here though, so that's something. He basically has to rest this turn. Because otherwise, I think that Snorlax wakes up here. Although I haven't been counting sleep turns because it's like at 12:30 after midnight. As he does choose to go out into his T-Tar. As Snorlax doesn't actually wake up. Okay, I was just wrong. So T-Tar, we've seen Pursuit, we've seen Roar. We can assume that it's got some sort of rock coverage. He goes for Aurora this turn, and let's see what he sends out. He sends out the Suicune, wearing it down even more, but T-Tar's not happy about taking this spikes damage, and Suicune is arguably the worst one it could have faced. Versus Umbreon, he would just roar again, accrue extra spikes damage on something, while of course getting the extra... Oh! The way poison works never ceases to just catch me off guard in GSC. It affects you after you've made a move, rather than at the end of the turn, and so McMegan could switch in there knowing that poison would not kill him after the Ice Beam, but that was still risky because, I mean, Surf would have definitely killed from there, and I don't really know why he would just decide to sack off his Raikou there, especially considering his Snorlax is weakened to the point where Two Thunders would take it out. So yeah, I'm not sure I agree. What am I about? Not sure. I know I would not agree with the play that McMegan just made, but it worked out for him because Mr. 378 went for an Ice Beam, possibly trying to freeze by himself. I don't know. I'm guessing there. I needed caffeine. So, yeah, 378 is doing a decent job of walling everything, but the fact that the Umbreon is frozen makes this game infinitely harder for him. And yeah, 100 turns in and it's still going to be 6v6. I find that amusing. As he misses the Rock Slide on the turn the Snorlax wakes up and goes for the Double Edge. Okay. Like, T-Tar lives another Double Edge, so... And misses another Rock Slide, jeez. I mean, that's revenge hacks for the freeze. The two Rock Slides are less... Pardon me. The two Rock Slide misses are less likely when you combine their probabilities, but the freeze mattered more in my opinion, so... this might actually not end up being turn 100 6v6. It might be 6v5. Rock Slide wouldn't have 2-KO'd Snorlax from there either, so... Yeah, I mean, he could still flinch here. That's something like a 27% chance when you factor in the miss rate, which would mean that his T-Cell would be able to live another Double Edge and potentially 3-hit KO the Snorlax. But yeah, regardless of how much he hurts the Snorlax, at some point Suicune can just come in, take the Rock Slide, and just go for Surf. Or more accurately, I think I'd go for Roar, given that Raikou is asleep. You lose nothing by roaring on the turn that it comes in. You make it take the extra spikes damage, and then you might be able to see what his last is. And seeing what a person's last is genuinely quite important in GSC. For example, if that last is a Starmie, just randomly, Mr. 378 would, if he had seen that and known that, he probably wouldn't have switched his Umbreon in on the Cloyster. Just as an example, because he would have known that it would have mattered more that he keep it around for Starmie. As McMegan is definitely taking his time here. Like, he can't switch out here because it would just mean that T-Tar dies to spikes, and based on the fact that he hasn't spun yet with Cloyster, that is not a spin Cloyster. I would be... Honestly, at this point, I'd be incredibly surprised to find out it wasn't just dual stab spikes Cloyster, because that's the way he's been playing it. And there's not really other coverage options you might... I mean, I guess he could go for Toxic, because he goes Gengar. Ooh, okay. Yeah, so that freeze on Umbreon matters more and more every second, because Gengar is shut down hard by Umbreon, and the fact that it's at 21% frozen and with a spike up means that it's just useless against for dealing with Gengar. Gengar can run a variety of sets. Hypnosis, it can run it normally will run Bolt Beam, just because Bolt Beam is very good coverage in the form of Ice Punch and Thunderbolt. It does not actually get Beam, but it does get Ice Punch, which is special in Generation 2, which is, you know, that's nice. It gives Gengar pretty much perfect coverage. But, oh, goes for an Ice Punch there. Freezes again! Oh dear. What is... This is a very haxy game. Like, the Rock Slide misses, the Ice Beams. I think the 2 freezes and 2 Rock Slide misses are literally as likely as each other, but that doesn't make them... Like, freezes matter more than misses, let's be real. Every turn he technically has a 20% chance to thaw out. I say technically because does anyone actually believe that every turn it's a 20% chance to thaw out when you're frozen? But I don't necessarily get the Snorlax switch there because the Skarmory is still healthy enough to always deal with it. I wonder what the last move is on this Snorlax as well. Oh, okay. The reason he went for Lovely Kiss there was in anticipation of Skarmory waking up early and cursing, but he misses the Lovely Kiss. Jesus, how many more haxy things can we get? I'm just laughing, that's just funny. He can just Whirlwind again. He is the slowest Skarmory, so he will definitely be able to get off the Whirlwind. Rack up extra chip damage on... That's another mechanic thing about Gen 2, by the way. Like, if you're going for phasing moves at the same time, whoever is slower will get off the phase, and whoever is faster will not. So it's the opposite of the way it works in future generations. Yeah. So, Skarmory versus Skarmory versus Cloyster, because he Whirlwinded the Skarmory. Cloyster can just... What's the Raikou at? Cloyster can just... well, I mean, he's going to stack off the Umbreon, surely. Surely there is no play for Mr. 378 other than sacking off the Umbreon. He might want to just preserve it for a little bit longer and go out into Suicune, I guess. But that wouldn't be... He actually goes for the Drill Peck, potentially taking the Hidden Power Electric or Surf with his Skarmory, and I don't agree with that in all honesty. Like, I don't think that was a necessary decision, I guess. It's nice to get the extra damage off, but it doesn't do anything for you really. And this Raikou did not go for Sleep Talk on the turn, despite it revealed Sleep Talk already, so I don't get why I wouldn't have at least just ruled as die. Maybe he's just trying to preserve PP. But yeah, goes for a Curse again with the Snorlax. I'm gonna go for a Lovely Kiss here as 378 goes for the Curse. Misses again, which is, you know, fantastic, as Drill Peck will do 21% as he does connect with the second Lovely Kiss. But at this point, does it even matter? Like, it's a +1 defense Skarmory, and it can just 100% of the time just deal with the Snorlax. I guess he could just try and go out into Gengar here, try and make the most of it. But he goes into Raikou instead, so... Raikou would be at 24% after it came in on spikes and got leftovers recovery, so if he killed off the Umbreon with the Gengar, he probably would not be able to kill off the Raikou on the opposing side of the field, so yeah. Misses the Thunder, as you do. This is just an incredibly hacked game. This is going to be such a long video. Snorlax comes in. And Skarmory just comes back in on the Snorlax. McMegan is honestly not playing that well today. And I know that's sacrilege, but he's had 2 freezes in the game. 2 freezes to 2 of Mr. 378's most important Pokemon. And yet, arguably, Mr. 378 is in a winning position here. Hidden Power Electric does not even come close to killing the Suicune, and Suicune can just go for another Surf with how weak that Snorlax is and the fact that it has to take spikes, Surf is just a KO, so he has to go into his Raikou. So here a Roar is practically free. As he actually rests. Okay. Maybe he doesn't have Roar on Suicune. Maybe it's just not Rest Talk Suicune. The reason I was surprised by Ice Beam is that Suicune normally will run Rest Talk, but they'll normally run Rest Talk Roar. Sorry to try and... not to try, but to explain that. Yeah. Also, Sleep Talk Roar does not work unless you are slower than your opponent as well. So it goes out into the Gengar, just going for a T-Bolt, trying to rack up extra damage on Snorlax. Yeah, I mean, I guess he's just going to do this. 3-4 T-Bolts will kill. Because of the way Leftovers works, so yeah. That's 3, that's 2, so it'll actually, that's 3, so it'll actually be 5 T-Bolts that will kill. As 378 does not wake up with his Snorlax, as Ice Punch takes it down. Ice Punch was to cover a potential Raikou switch, by the way, but he can just rest up here with Raikou. And honestly, like, McMegan's team does not deal with Raikou brilliantly at this point. He could explode. That would be nice to see here. He does explode. Raikou gets sent down to nearly nothing. And here he can just go out into the cloister and just go for... Do I know that person? No, I don't. Stop it, Facebook. I don't want you. He can just go out into cloister and just fire off an Ice Beam. Raikou is incredibly weakened at this point. Honestly, I think that maybe the play there was to Ice Punch before booming, just so that you guaranteed actually took out the Raikou, and so that it couldn't just be a bit of a nuisance. But it's practically taking down the Raikou anyway, and he didn't want to potentially risk getting paralyzed with the thing. So yeah, Ice Beam kills off the Raikou, and in comes the Suicune. Now, Cloyster normally will run Boom, especially on offensive teams like this, so that's probably his last move. So here, Surf will not kill. Ice Beam will do even less than Surf will. And so I think that the play for McMegan here is to Hidden Power Electric once. Nope, I did not think that Boom was the play there. I thought that Hidden Power Electric once and then Boom was the play. But instead he went for it that way. Suicune is still alive, but it isn't anymore because Thunder hits. And at this point, Raikou just cleans up the game because of the boom on the Raikou. So yeah, just nicely gets full power there. If Thunder misses and this Fortress has boom, as he actually spins for no reason. This is why I don't like Fortress. Like, it's not offensive enough. Yeah, just in general, like, it boom from it, I guess is okay, but that's the only thing it really does. McMegan is missing every single Thunder. But it doesn't even matter because like, T-Tar will normally run Fire Blast, and at that point, oh no, T-Tar will die to Spikes. Huh. If he... no, because this thing has rest. Oh, he's out of Thunders now as well. Okay. I didn't look at the Thunder PP, but the fact that he's out of Thunders gives Mr. 378 an actual shot in this game. He goes out into the Umbreon. His shot is basically to Thor, which is, you know, unfortunate. But it is still at least a shot. As he goes out into the Fortress... actually, I mean, like, it doesn't necessarily have to just be thawing. As Hidden Power, is that Hidden Power Electric, maybe? Honestly, no. But he weakens the Skarmory massively. As he goes out into his own Skarmory, just trying to waste Drill Peck PP. As here, he can just curse. He goes for Whirlwind, as McMegan also goes for Whirlwind. That's a very nice play indeed. I thought that Curse was more likely on Mr. 378's end, but yeah, that was just nicely done. The fact that he doesn't have electric moves with Raikou anymore means that this is actually a game again. Yeah, because obviously that he can just rest, but now he needs to hit Thunders through sleep. And does that the first time of asking. That's just funny to me, I'm sorry, but yeah, he can go out into his Snorlax here and just double edge until he wins. Fortress is at such a low amount of HP that it can't actually beat it, so yeah. Every time he does this though, he's risking the Umbreon thawing out, and if the Umbreon thaws out, he doesn't lose because Skarmory will PP stall the Umbreon eventually, but he makes it harder for himself unnecessarily. But yeah, McMegan takes this game, and as I said earlier on, the fact that Mr. 378 just didn't have a way to solidly guarantee his own victory with something like a Curse-Lax, his team is too passive to try and face down someone like McMegan with. I didn't like the way McMegan played for a lot of the game, but at times it just worked. So yeah, McMegan beats Mr. 378 in the GSC battle of the day. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed the commentary, and I'll see you all next time. Peace.